Welcome to the Finance Committee of Monday, June 3rd, 2024. The regular Finance Committee meeting that we hold before regular meetings. See who we have here online. It looks like Jerry McCafferty, Counselor Walsh, Lindsay, and LeVar, and one person I don't know.
Sequoia Malone, he's the grants.
Oh, he's a grant guy. So boy, how are you? Writing any grants today? All right, and here in the office, we have Kathy Bono. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Tenders Terrari.
He's Labor Relations Associate.
Yeah, excellent. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Bill Mahoney, Chris
Fraser.
Rader, Counselor Govan, and Counselor Delgado. Thanks, everybody, for coming. First item is CDBG entitlement grant. You're a CDBG expert, aren't you, Kathy?
I am, thank you for pointing that out.
Not just sort of.
Sort of. So I will still speak to the CDBG entitlement. And the next three entitlements were awarded 4 entitlements in total. All 4 entitlements went down this year, which is the first time in a long time. CDBG, less than 1%.
They went down, they're still on, but they.
Yeah, they went
they're
down in
smaller.
funding. We received $3,740,488 last year. There was a decrease of about $11,000, but it did go down. As you know, the CDBG is awarded every year as an entitlement, and we do an RFP process in February for public service funds. And then we fund projects like, we fund parks. We do a lot of matching grants for parks department. They receive federal funds and we're the match. We do a sidewalk program. We do rehab for nonprofits, which a lot of the nonprofits have trouble keeping up their buildings because they receive grant monies for the programs, but no one gives them money. So every year the mayor's trying to do something. We give them up to $25,000 to make improvements to the buildings. They do a lot of HVAC, a lot of windows, a lot of handicap accessible bathrooms, things like that, painting. I think we did a few gymnasium floors, et cetera. It allows them to do some work that normally there aren't grants for them. So we try to fund that every year. We do an emergency repair program for homeowners. And as an emergency, we do a lot of roofs. Most of the programs are roofs. It used to be due upon sale or transfer. We are now running it the same way we do our first time home buyer program, which is forgivable over 5 years, 20% every year. So at the end of the 5 years, it's gone as long as you continue to own the house. You can refinance, but you can't take out money or you have to pay it back. But if it changes ownership, you have to pay it back during those 5 years. That's okay. And we also are running a small business program, which is going to be for businesses. And they're designing it now for operations as well as facade improvements. And then road sidewalks. We also do the code enforcement street sweeps on Saturdays. They're proactive and they just drive around the streets because we've heard from a lot of people during our public hearings that a lot of people that know that code enforcement only works Monday through Friday. So they do things on Saturdays to see if they can find code violations. Questions?
So those 4 items, 1 through 4, was one of them, like number 2, that was the home one or something?
We haven't talked about those. I was just talking about
item
CDBG. Jerry McCafferty oversees the next 3, the home entitlement, HOPWA, and ESG, and she's on to speak to you about those.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Kathy on the other items? Yeah, Zeta.
Which one did you say about the fixing people's houses?
It's called the Emergency Repair Program. We're funding it at
Right.
$350,000. There's applications in the Office of Housing, but it has to be an emergency.
Okay,
Considered an emergency with leaking roofs are
right,
an emergency.
considered an emergency. Okay, how do people apply for those? I just spoke to someone yesterday who asked me about it.
Jerry, do you want to address that?
Okay, then let Maria in.
The Emergency Repair Program?
Yes, I was trying to get off mute.
Tim, I had a
Yes,
first grants.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
catering in a sec.
Yeah, I had a question. The CDBG grants.
Yeah, Jerry's answering questions. No,
I
Yeah.
just wondered, you said there was a decrease was about 11,000?
yes.
So what does that mean to the programs? Did you have to eliminate one or people get less?
We reduced the funding over a few programs. It wasn't a substantial amount, so we were able to absorb it through all the different programs. We didn't eliminate anything, no.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Govan, for the emergency repair program, the application is online. People can submit it online or they can print it from online. And then bring it or mail it in, or they can come into the office and apply.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll let my constituent.
Okay, hey, Counselor Walsh, did you have anything else? You're on mute.
I was just curious about the funding.
On that one, okay. Anybody else got questions on,
I did have a question on the roof one. How does somebody qualify for the roof one? I know you said.
It has to be income eligible,
So
so it's 80% or below AMI, air and median income, based on the household income.
It's good to know. And then I was happy to hear that about the funding for nonprofits and other organizations, because I mean, we have a lot of nonprofits in the city and do a lot of great work with our community. The fact that we have something like that to help them with the other pieces. I think-
And we've been, it was so popular and we realized just how much they needed that we funded every year, I think, for the past 6 or 7 years.
Is that also on the February kind of due schedule or?
No, we'll release those applications probably, we usually do it sometime in October for them to apply.
yes, I said, Counselor Duncan.
Sure.
I have a question. I remember earlier in my council career, I can't go back as to when, but there would be nonprofits, like I remember the Bing, when it was the Bing got money from them, when the Bing was trying to reconstitute itself, and how does that happen? You know, or does that still exist, that type of?
The Bing applied a couple times. They were trying to run programs.
Right.
We struggled to fund them because in order to apply for a program and receive program dollars, you have to actually keep files. You have to have documentation of the people that come in, that you're serving low income. You have to service low income individuals, and you have to have accomplishments. Like you have to have some kind of something measurable.
Right.
And they were just running programs for anyone who wanted to come in. Unfortunately, they were running like art program type things. A lot of the people that came in were not from Springfield. So that's where, you can run programs, you can be a nonprofit, but we have to have files. We have to be able to come in and see it. We have to have something measurable, some outcome.
So other nonprofits now, the Bing is kaput right now.
Right.
But there's others. How do they get solicited to apply?
Well, the RFP comes out in February. We advertise it in the Republican, La Voz, and, let's see, shoot, I can't remember the other one.
Pueblo Latina.
I do.
No, I'll think of it. But we also send out we have a mailing list of about 300 organizations and people who have gotten it. Every time someone calls our office and asks for information, or counselors do whatever, we add them to the mailing list. So we also have a mailing list. It's also on the city's website, the community development website. And most organizations know it comes out the same time every year, the month of February, it's out. So it's out the month of February. The application is online. They can fill it out. And they can apply for funding. But our public service is capped at 15%. So as much as we'd like to do a lot more, and I wish it wasn't, but that's at the federal level, that's regulatory, so there's nothing we can do.
The other 80, so where's the other 85%?
The other 85% goes to the other programs, the parks, the sidewalks, the emergency repair. 20% is for salaries for the staff that runs it. We do the economic development, the small business program we're running. We do the public art program, the murals throughout Springfield. The emergency repair, we give revitalized CDC 35,000 a year.
Good. All right, that's good. Thank you. We got somebody else with their hands up.
Council Perez.
Councilor Perez?
Hi, everyone. Going back to the roof, applications for the repairing, the application in Spanish as well?
Yes, Jerry, we need the applications first, yes.
Yes, the application is in Spanish and English, and we have Spanish-speaking staff here who can help people through it as well, either on phone or in person.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sherry.
Mr. Chair, I have another question.
Yeah.
Sorry, you brought up a good point. So you brought up the point about nonprofits that have to have either a track record, paperwork and stuff like that, which I understand as critical. Do you find that to be a constant issue for some of our nonprofits in terms of challenges for folks who may be eligible, maybe deserving of some type of awards, but because they don't have a good track record of actually keeping files that they're
It's,
able to apply?
most people who are, have been running their nonprofit for a while, have all the files, they know it, they have other sources. Brand new nonprofits, and like the bank just tried to become one, they don't realize that you have to keep them, et cetera. So it is a challenge for someone when they first start,
Yeah.
but not once they get going, because they realize, and it can be just a simple, sign-in sheet that you need to keep the files, and you make if someone's running the program, as much as giving them a certificate for completing whatever, it isn't, we usually work through them and we can meet with them and we say, all right, what can your outcome be? So, it doesn't have to be, they don't have to pass a test or something. It
Yeah.
can be they completed, they came, because we run summer programs. So,
You just need documentation.
we need
that
documentation that
people from
they
Springfield
came, they did, and if we're running stuff to legitimize it.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that makes sense. I was just curious, in terms of, do we offer any types of support? Because I understand there's, so many different nonprofits. There are large nonprofits and there are small nonprofits. And sometimes the smaller nonprofits don't have the funding or the staff to go after grants that can help them,
right, yeah.
do the great work that they could probably do. So I was wondering, do we offer any, so it sounded like you said, you'll meet with folks. But do
We'll
we
meet with them
offer
and-
any regular trainings or anything like that to support those types of nonprofits that may be in those situations?
We do, we have a staff person who will go out, meet with them, help them with their paperwork, help them figure out what their what their outcomes can be. Show them give them a form to have people fill out, et cetera, walk them
So
through
you do
that.
it on a one-on-one basis?
Right, we do it on a one-on-one
I was just
basis.
wondering, like.
But we don't have someone to go out and help them find other grants and write up.
No, not that. I was just thinking, how can we support some of those organizations, like do a training so that multiple organizations can understand what
So
is
we do
necessary?
have, when we do, for example, the rehab for nonprofits, we will have a mandatory meeting and just explain to them, because we do have a lot of churches who try to apply. And there's a separation between church and state, so you have to be very careful. So we have to explain to them that if you just run a food pantry on Sundays and anyone can come in and go, you're not actually running a program. I can't pay for you to upgrade
That
the
makes sense.
bathroom because it's for the purpose of the church.
Mhm.
So we do try to explain, but there are churches who absolutely run programs out of their church.
Mhm.
So we try to work with them. So we do have those meetings to explain to them what we're looking for, what you have to show us,
That's good.
and what you can, and the biggest hurdles we usually go through with people at those are churches.
And then my last, just quick follow-up question, do you?
Isn't there a limit of 2 or something?
No, then you brought a good point. I gotta be informed so I can let folks know. No, the other question is, do you find that every year, do we get the same folks applying for the grants? Do we get different folks? Are there
We
requirements?
do get the same, but you get more points in the scoring if it's a new program.
Okay,
Because what our money isn't supposed to be counted on every year. It's supposed to help you start up and go,
Correct.
whatever. So we do have some of the same agencies, but they ask us to fund different programs. But we do every year have about 4 or 5 new ones that apply.
all right. I was just curious about that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thanks. Okay. Any other questions on the long item 1? Item 1, 2, and 3 or
Work
whatever.
for me, I think.
All right, that gets us to, thanks, everybody. That gets us to number 4, ESG entitlement. Or no, it doesn't. It gets us to number 2. Number 2,
Number
right.
2.
Home entitlement. Jerry, want to take number 2?
Yes, the home entitlement grant is for housing purposes. There's really 4 things we can use it for: down payment assistance, multifamily rental housing, homeownership development, and tenant-based rental assistance. We use it for all 4 of those. The grant this year is just over $1.5 million. It's a decrease of about $300,000 from last year. which is unfortunate in this housing environment. We really need the housing dollars. But yes, but those are the things we use it for, all four of those purposes.
Is there a point in the process where you can kind of appeal for more money or whatever, or you just take what they send you?
No, it's an entitlement. It is set up, so Congress makes their decision of how much goes to the home program. And then there is a formula that they use that determines how much each community gets. So it's the decision that Congress made, how much they budgeted for it this year.
All right. Any questions for Jerry on the home entitlement grant? Okay,
Her name's not Kathy.
You got all your questions out for Kathy.
The phone for her.
Right?
yeah.
I do have a
We'll get you
question. I'm
another one,
sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I'll ask Jerry a question. So again, how do you apply and how do people qualify? Like for rental assistance, for example, I just heard of a constituent that I guess they got behind on their rent and they couldn't, pay it or whatever. So now they're living in their car. How would they be able to qualify? How do people know about the
So-
program?
So we don't use it that way. This is a fairly small grant, and because the state funds eviction prevention and rental startup at such a high level, they fund it at millions of dollars. So we don't fund that. And we send people to Wayfinders for that kind of assistance. Our tenant-based rental assistance is an extremely small program that funds rental assistance for chronically homeless people who get supportive services from the Mental Health Association. So we really use it as a homelessness program
Right.
to get people off the streets specifically. The other programs, the down payment assistance program, that is run out of the Office of Housing. People apply here. The application is online or in the office. Again, Spanish and English. People can come in and get help with it or do it online themselves. And then the other two programs are housing development. So we are usually the junior partner in big multifamily housing development. So the kind of housing development that's being done by we're a partner in Gemini Townhomes in the South End. We are often a partner with First Resource, Gordon Pulsifer. We were in the projects he did in Mason Square. We work with both nonprofits and for-profits who develop affordable housing. The state and tax credits put in most of the money, but the state requires that the city have a contribution for them to consider it. It's the way we show our support, but we're very much the junior partner in those. And then the other projects we do with it is home ownership development. So we usually combine it with lots that the city owns, and we put together a lot and funding for a nonprofit, usually a nonprofit, to come in and develop housing for affordable housing for homeowners. And when we do that, we have a lottery. We recently, last fall, had a lottery for units that we developed with partnering with New North Citizens or North End Housing Initiative. And we have a lottery to select the income qualified buyers for those houses.
Okay, great. And the housing development money, how do developers access that?
So because we're gap funding, meaning we are the final piece of funding, we ask them to give us, when they're applying to the state, they give us the same application that they're giving the state. And we review it and if we support the project at all, which most projects we do, we make some contribution to it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Zaida. Anyone else on that question? All right, moving along. Thank you. Moving along. Are we on Hop One now? Jerry, that you as well?
That is me as well. This is housing opportunities for persons with AIDS. For this, we are the grant recipient for all of Hamden, Hampshire, and Franklin counties. And it is, as the name says, it is housing for persons experiencing who are HIV positive or have AIDS. There are 3 providers. We get this money out into the community through a request for proposals process for nonprofits to apply. There are really 3 entities who have ever applied for this money. They are the people who have some expertise in this area and serve this population. Those are New North Citizens Council, River Valley Counseling Center, and Cooley Dickinson, a project called The Positive Place. Much of this is rental assistance support, either ongoing rental assistance with services, or it can be eviction prevention or foreclosure prevention or rental startup as well. So it covers, it definitely goes toward the housing needs of that community.
Okay, great. Any questions for Jerry on the housing opportunities for
Mr.
persons
Chair.
with AIDS?
Just for Kathy. Jerry,
Jerry's gonna be better.
so that grant, it looks like it's not even $1 million. And I haven't really hadn't heard too much more about, people with AIDS. I know in the big early 90s, it was, an epidemic, and that's how I started, I guess, actually in my field. You imagine you might not know, I should be asking Commissioner Carlton Harris about this, the numbers of people with AIDS in our city and people that are getting infected, or people, I don't even know if people are still getting infected.
So I
should
do know some, when I do annual reporting on this, I need to pull the numbers. People are definitely still getting infected. I would say a lot that is intravenous drug use, needles is a lot of it now.
Right.
People are living, the medications for it are so much better now that people are living longer, living healthier. But still definitely, the concept of this program is giving people a supportive housing platform so that they are likely to be able to be taking their medications and staying on the medications that reduce their viral load, and keep them healthier.
Good to know. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Councilwoman. Anybody else? Nobody else? All right, thank you, Jerry. We'll move on. We got one more here, which I think is yours. The ESG entitlement grant.
So this is a relatively small grant, 329,000. We receive it annually. It is emergency solutions grant. It is to address homelessness. It's to address, many of our homeless grants are on the housing side. This is on the outreach and housing search and prevention side. And this is similarly, we do a request for proposals, and the money goes out that way. The primary uses that we use it for are street outreach, to connect with people who are unsheltered on the streets, and housing navigators, who are people who help people, housing navigators that are situated at Friend of the Homeless that help people find housing, do applications. And then we have a small amount that's for prevention.
Okay. Thank you. Questions for Jerry on that one? Not seeing any. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item 5, fire emergency management performance grant increase. Who's got that one today?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have that one for the grant sky.
Great.
So this is a 4,000. Right. This is a $4,000 increase to fire's EMPG grant. The awarding agency MEMA actually made an error and approved it, or awarded us an additional $4,000. And due to delays in getting the project approved, they're allowing us to keep the funding for additional supplies outlined in the grant award.
They're gonna learn that you're the grants guy. You better watch it. All right, that's great. Any questions on that one? Okay, thanks. Thank you. Moving on, item 6. Donation, Police Superintendent Akers.
Yep, I'll take that one as well. So this is the anonymous donation of $5,000 for Superintendent Akers. These are going to be for operational expenses as the superintendent sees fit.
So it's money that he gets to use for things that are
Yeah.
operational in nature kind of thing.
Yeah, essentially. So it's gonna go to their donation account. So whenever an expense comes up or something out of the, I guess, the ordinary, they can use this funding.
Great. Okay, thanks.
Is there a dollar amount to that?
Yep, $5,000.
Oh, I don't see it on there.
Yeah.
It's listed.
No, it's not listed. I wrote it.
Thank you.
Next one, number 7.
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. To the grant guys, I see that you did $5,000 donation for Superintendent Akers' operational expense that he sees fit. What was the source of the donation?
It's actually anonymous. So we're not sure where it came from.
Okay, what will some of the examples be for operational expenses?
What was that? I couldn't hear you.
Would you be able to speak as to what example could qualify for operational expenses besides pens and pencils?
So I would probably say, like, if a prior year bill comes to the light, you can use donation accounts. And again, I don't specifically work with PD, so I'm not sure what some of their ancillary supplies would be.
I can speak to that as well, Sequoia, not to interrupt.
Totally.
Counselor, this would just go into their general donation account, and they use their donation account for things like equipment, training, anything over and above something that's been funded for in the general fund. They have that as a funding source to use for additional departmental needs that they might not have funding necessarily for in the general fund. That's what they use their donations for.
So it's going to be used up for the operational expense of the whole department, or for the superintendent?
It would be for the whole department, even though it's a donation made in the superintendent's name. It's for use of the whole department, just like any other donation.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, is anybody else on that? Fiscal year 24 library cash donations. Lindsay, can you speak to that one, or is that someone else?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So this is a donation. This is the total cash donations that the library received for FY24. So various individuals, and this will go to the Springfield City Library donation account.
Thank you. Questions? No questions. I guess it's to item 8, which is.
Sorry, I was muted. Mr. Chair, what was the dollar amount on that for the library donations?
Yep, it was $435.92.
Okay, and I always think it's important to mention at these meetings, according to our rules, that we accept grants up to $50,000 without on a single vote. They're automatically accepted.
Mhm.
Are you suggesting that we split them out on this agenda?
No, I'm suggesting that, you don't have to be present for it if we're going to accept it, but that we always accept grants under that amount.
Yeah. Okay, I'll talk to Susan about it.
But no, we accept them without debate.
Okay.
That's usually why we don't have we tell the department heads they don't have to be there, and Sequoia speaks.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Right. I didn't know if the new grant guy knew that. So just passing it on. guys.
I know now.
Well, you got some momentum. Why don't you take that next one? It's a nice, tidy little amount. I talked to Kathy today about the bond authorization for the fire apparatus. It's a big number. And can you just tell them what you told me?
This actual bond authorization came before you and was voted on, approved unanimously back in November. The reason we're bringing it back is because the bond council, when they went through, realized that we did not have it in our FY 24 capital plan. And we had, it has to be in the capital plan. So we put it in the 25 capital plan, and bond council just asked if we could get a revote by the city council. So this is for the purchase of a tower truck and an engine. They need the bond authorization because they have to have funding in place to order the equipment, and the equipment lead time right now is 30 to 40 months. But before you can order it, they have to have the bond in place. You did pass it in November. So I'm just asking you to repass it based on the fact that it had to be in the capital plan. I did not have Lieutenant, or no, what is it?
Commissioner Calvin?
Commissioner, thank you. I forget what everyone's names are. Commissioner Calvi did ask, and I did tell him he really didn't need to be here, so that's my fault if the council did have questions. I just thought this was kind of a housekeeping thing and just needed to
Right,
be
yeah.
voted on.
I think
And
it
that you had
is.
had discussions and spoke to it previous.
Right.
But he does need, there is a, you know, about 3-year lead time, so he does need the funding in place in order to put the order in.
Mm.
Can you speak to what the, what our bond capacity is at this point? It's usually 28 million, 29.
I mean,
30.
yeah, we have huge, I don't know the exact,
I
number,
don't
we have
think-
huge
I mean, that-
capacity, but, we do try to make sure that we're only putting in, we're not bonding for everything. We do have everything in the plan, and we do prioritize. This is a priority. It's replacing 2011 trucks. Those 2011 trucks are going to be then put in reserve, because the trucks in reserve now are from 1996 and 1998. So, and you can't even get parts for those anymore. So these will be put in reserve. But as I said, you're about 3 years out. So they need to order it. And they do have a whole plan, a replacement plan. All the departments have that. DPW runs ones for the city, police has theirs, and fire has theirs, their replacements.
And that's good. There's always been talk about the plans and all that. Just given that we just passed this massive budget, and it's gonna cause tax increases that nobody wants to see, and it's gonna cause them.
Right.
It's probably time to rev up vehicle replacement plans and share them with the council or.
Yep, and I
something.
can,
We talk
I'll
some-
speak to,
some
yeah, we can
like
speak to that. Yes, but these, there are things where,
Mhm.
this isn't in the general fund budget, but there are things we're gonna have to do. I mean, we just have to do.
Yeah, and I know that we, if I may, Mr. Chair, we did approve this back in November. Now, is that amount reflected in our budget that we just passed? It's not, so
No,
this is
you
gonna
won't, I
add to
mean,
the budget.
this won't add to it because
Okay.
it's
Okay.
a bond. All we're doing is authorizing them
The
to
bond,
purchase it. It won't be reflected in the general fund budget for debt until we actually
Until
sell the
sell,
bonds,
okay.
which won't be until we incur the cost.
Mhm.
So I mean,
Okay.
not that I'm saying 3 years is, we're gonna be better, but, we're out. This won't be reflected. It is not in this year's general
Okay.
fund, so to speak.
Mr. Just quick question on the
Yeah.
bond piece of it. Is it my understanding now that with interest rates going higher, does that mean we have to pay out higher on these bonds?
Well, we're actually maintained our bond rating, and we do a lot of our bonding through the states
Okay,
bonding, so we did not. We're still at, what are we at, like 5%, Lindsay, we just went out for?
Yeah, we were at about 5% and the interest rates have gone up a little bit, but not as much as we actually expected. But obviously, that could change month to month. But yeah, we just recently went out in April, and the rates were better than we expected.
And that's because of our good fiscal,
Mhm.
we're being fiscally responsible, counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
As the new CAFO, I would only expect that of you. So tonight, the implication of voting for this tonight is really, we're just voting to stay in line.
Yeah, you're just,
Staying in line.
yeah, I mean,
For 3 years from now, when
Right.
there's trucks available.
right.
And that money that it's gonna cost for them, no impact on our current budget.
No.
And only would have impact on our bond, when it takes place.
He cannot order without funding in place, Mass General Law.
Sounds good. Any questions from anybody? Here? No? Okay, thank you. Budget transfer within a department, finance to multi-year big go fund. Who's got that one?
Lindsay?
Thank you, Counselor. Yeah, so this is a transfer. We do come to you every year with our year-end pay-go transfer in order to keep the projects currently going in place. And we just move it over so next year we're able to keep the funding within those projects.
So this is a standard yearly thing that we do, just taking budget money from within finance to put in pay-go.
That's correct. Yeah, all of the pay-go funding that was allocated and not spent within this fiscal year, we'll move it over so it's available to us still to keep the projects going for FY25.
Okay. Sounds good. Questions? Okay, thanks. Last one for you guys on the finance side, transfer from reserve for contingencies to the Office of Procurement, 25,000.
I can speak to that. As you heard, I think in the budget hearings from Lauren Stablo, that they have had a huge increase in bids this year, and they've also had to go out numerous times for different bids because they only got one or no bidders. So every time they go out, they have to re-advertise. So the advertising budget, she needs another 25,000 in her advertising budget, and the cost of advertising has gone up.
Okay. And what did you mean by there's a huge increase in bids or something? Bids are higher, things are higher?
No, the number of
Just the
bids we're
number of
putting
bids.
out with the ARPA funding, with the ESCO funding, with, everyone's, there are just more bids this year than she anticipated. And then she's not getting enough bidders, so a lot of times they're asking to go back out.
Okay. Questions, anyone? Sounds good. All right, Bill Mahoney, you've been patient this whole time.
Well, first I want to ask council, how do I get a donation account for labor related?
I mean,
Oh, there's a big,
it's 4:35 there in the libraries. I don't know, maybe we'll go to library and talk to Molly.
So we have one contract for you tonight. It's the building inspector's contract. They're represented by the National Association of Government Employees. There's about 10 employees in the bargaining unit. It's the building inspectors, it's the plumbing inspectors, and it's the wire inspectors. So about 10 people. We had a little bit of a challenge with attracting and retaining staff there. And if I just get into for 2 seconds on the building inspectors, when we hire, they may not already be a certified licensed building inspector, and the state determines whether or not they can take the exam. So it's kind of a high bar to get them in. You may recall that more recently, we've sent to the council notification of 2 residency waivers to bring in 2 different building inspectors. One actually came on board, and I think the other one declined the position. So we got a little creative, and we're bringing to you tonight is a contract that I guess I'll start off with. The current contract doesn't expire until next June 30th. So it's good through June 30th of 2025. What we've done is we've added 2 years onto that contract at 2% each year. So it's going to go through June 30th of 2027. So we've got 2 more years we're going to add to the contract at 2% each year. But what we did is we did a market adjustment this year, this month, this day, if the city council approves it. And what we're doing is we're increasing the rates of pay this year between 6.5% at the top end to 11.5% at the entry end in order to attract people into these positions because they're so hard for us to fill. So that's what we have for you. It's an extension of an existing contract by 2 years with a market adjustment effective today if it's approved by the council.
Okay, thanks. Is these positions, are they people who work, they must work in Chief Desolate's organization?
Yeah, this
but-
is Steve Shell.
But are they in the code
They're
enforcement?
in the building inspection
They're in the
department.
building
Yeah,
inspector.
yeah. So code is doing more of the housing. These guys are the actual building inspectors and the wiring inspectors and the plumbing inspectors.
Did you do, that's good. Did you do, I know there's always staffing issues there. Did you do a salary survey or anything like that?
I think the department looked at that. I think Steve's shop looked at that, and we came in on the labor relations center.
Did you talk to the head of HR?
I did. He said, it's okay.
I didn't even get what you were trying to.
All right, yeah, Counselor Govan.
So, so there's this 6.5% to 11.5% increase starting today.
Yeah.
What's that total, and is that gonna be adding to our budget?
It would be negligible because it's only, for this fiscal year, it'll be negligible because there's only
Until
27
July,
days left,
right.
You know, so it's not gonna be really making much
So
of
it's
a
for
dent.
next year's budget,
So it will impact next year's budget.
which we just passed.
Yep, and you'll have a 2% COLA for next year for this group. It's only 10 people, it's a small group.
Okay.
And then you'll have 2% the year after, 2% the year after.
Do you know how much it's going to increase the budget by?
I don't know, Lindsay or Chris, you.
I can speak to, so we don't have an exact number yet, Counselor. It'll also depend on if the positions are filled. However, what we will do throughout the year is we'll look at any salary savings that they have from vacancies and we'll see how that stacks up against where their spending is. But it's not a cost that we've added into the budget with the budget already being passed.
Okay,
I don't anticipate needing any more money. They never fill all those positions.
Right.
I mean, I'd love to say we will, and I'd be glad to come back to you and say I need more money, but it just doesn't happen, the building inspectors. But that's not one of the ones I'm giving you, so don't even.
It's to hear you
I can
say
tell
what I said a week and a half ago, but anyway, good to be
No,
on the same team.
But the building inspectors, we need them. We're behind in inspections. They're,
No doubt.
we're hoping that maybe this will make it more.
where do you guys advertise? Because I know actually 2 building inspectors that live right here in Springfield. And then again, it's about probably pay. But where do you advertise? I don't know, I know you guys know that or not.
Right, so we are on, we use a system called NeoGov, which puts all of our stuff on the job site, governmentjobs.com, which is the biggest job site for public sector jobs in the country. So we get huge hits. We probably get 370,000 hits a year. We have huge numbers coming out of governmentjobs.com.
Are a lot of them from Springfield?
We get a lot from Springfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
If you have people, it should put them in touch with Steve
Yeah.
Decklet. He
I
would
will.
be glad to
I
talk to
will,
anybody.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll talk to them.
I mean, then she's always looking.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, everybody, are we there? Are there any questions for Bill Mahoney on this labor negotiations? Negotiation? Peter, are you all set? All right, I think that's the end of the agenda, right? Yep. Great, thank you, Bill. So we just have to decide Jose, and I think Melvin's on as well.
I think he has a question.
Behind you.
Behind them, so I can't see.
Yes,
I just had a question, a point of information, really.
okay,
The collective would like to make donations of those needle bins, hypodermic needle bins, to 5 different locations in Springfield. The one that we're focusing on most is the one for Rebecca Johnson School, because there's a problem with needles in that area when the children go out to play. So that's our priority right now, but we're looking to donate 5 of those bins. They cost something like $1,100 a piece, and they're very safe. But we need to, I think we've already reached out to the health commissioner. I don't know if my crew reached out to the Parks Department, because we will need their approval to locate them, since they will be distributed at 4 locations in parks. And we also need to arrange for the city to empty those bins on a regular basis. But the main thing is the Rebecca Johnson School, because the park which adjoins the grounds to the school, people gather there after they use, they throw it on the ground. The school then has to go and pick up those needles and dispose of them. But, you know, and then the people who utilize that space, they figure that it's their right. They assemble there when they could be endangering the lives of the children. So, you know, there's more to it, but we're just focusing on getting the bins put in place. So we're just trying to figure out what's the best approach besides going to the Commissioner of Health and to Mr. Signoli.
I mean, it's good initiative you have there, thinking of the public health of everyone. It just, in this meeting, in this committee, we don't talk about those kinds of things in terms of setting up operations to do it. I would say we talked to Helen, you've talked to Helen?
We've reached out to her, we're waiting to hear from her.
In the Parks Department, I think,
Yeah, I think they've also reached
I
out
think
to
you
Parks.
guys start with Helen.
Yeah, Helen's.
because I don't think we have anything to do with that unless they.
We
bring
don't
it
really,
here.
yeah.
Yeah.
When,
So, I mean-
when we probably have to accept the donation eventually, but that's not today.
Right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to figure out, what's the process so that we can actually come to the city
I
council.
think
to-
it would be Helen.
Helen.
And I forwarded your email to the commissioner as well,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, we
Good.
greatly appreciate that because our children are our future and we don't want to endanger their lives.
Okay, Jose or Melvin, are either of you interested in starting a motion to accept this?
Mr. Chair, before we do that, I have to recuse myself from item number 5. So I can vote on everything else but 5.
All right. You want to make a motion on everyone else with 5? or-
Make a motion to approve items, all items except number 5. Then you can vote on that separately.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, the three of us? Yes,
Aye.
All right, so that passes. And then Melvin, you want to do something on item 5?
Motion to approve item 5.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, thank you, everybody. Long agenda, but we got a lot of questions answered. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Chris, you're.